Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Captain Elias Ward woke up to the sound of metal screaming. For a moment he thought he was still inside his dropship, crashing through atmosphere, alarms blaring, gravity pulling him down toward fire. But when he tried to move, nothing happened. His arms would not respond. His legs felt like they were buried in stone. Cold air brushed across his face. The air smelled wrong, too clean, too thin, too still. He opened his eyes. Above him stretched a ceiling so high it faded into shadows. Lines of pale white light ran across it like veins under skin. The floor beneath him was smooth black metal, polished enough that he could see his own reflection, pale, bruised, dried blood near his hairline. He tried to sit up. Nothing. Some kind of invisible pressure held him down. Not straps, not chains, something heavier, like gravity itself had been turned against him. He turned his head. To his right stood a wall made entirely of glass. No, not glass. A force field. Beyond it, space burned. A blue and white planet filled half the view, swirls of cloud, oceans shining in sunlight. Earth. Elias stopped breathing. Bright flashes lit the dark side of the planet. 1, 2, 10 at once. Small white stars blooming across continents. Orbital strikes. Cities. His chest tightened, but the weight holding him down kept him from even curling inward. Footsteps echoed behind him, slow, heavy, measured. He forced himself to look away from Earth. The being that approached was tall, at least 8 feet. Its body was covered in smooth silver armor that reflected the light like liquid metal. No seams, no visible joints. Thin lines of blue light moved across the armor's surface like flowing circuits. Where a face should be, there was only a curved plate of dark metal. It stopped a few steps away and looked down at him. A voice filled the room, not from a mouth, from everywhere. Captain Elias Ward, Ground Defense Command, Northern Continental Sector. Elias swallowed. If you know that much, you know you already won. There was a pause. We did not win, the voice said calmly. Victory implies resistance ended when outcome became clear. Another flash lit Earth's surface. Your species continued. Elias turned his eyes back toward the planet, his planet. How long, he asked. 8 of your hours since planetary defense collapse. 8 hours. Human history reduced to a work shift. He laughed once, dry and broken. Guess we finally found someone better at war than us. The alien tilted its head slightly. That is inaccurate. Many species are better at war than you. Elias looked back at it. Yeah, then why are you talking to me? Silence stretched. Because none of them fight like you do. The walk through the enemy. The pressure holding him down vanished without warning. Elias gasped and rolled onto his side, coughing as feeling rushed back into his limbs. Stand, the alien said. He did slowly. His legs shook, but he stayed upright. The wall showing Earth went dark. The ship had turned away or jumped. His home disappeared in a blink. 2 more armored figures entered the chamber. They flanked him without touching him. Come, the first one said. They walked through corridors wide enough to drive tanks through. The walls curved smoothly, glowing lines running through them like living veins. No doors, only openings that appeared as they approached and sealed behind them. Elias noticed something else. Other beings. Not Cathari, not the tall silver giants. Short, thin creatures with 4 arms carried equipment. A reptilian species moved crates under guard. Floating beings in environmental suits drifted along the ceiling, working on panels. Every single one avoided eye contact with the armored warriors. Slaves, Elias realized. Or conquered. How many? Elias asked quietly. The alien beside him did not look at him. Clarify. How many species have you beaten? 73, currently under Dominion authority. Elias let out a low whistle. And how many fought back? A pause. All of them once. The Council of the Unconquered. They brought him into a vast circular chamber. Tiered platforms rose along the walls. On each stood beings from different worlds. Fur, scales, shells, tentacles, machines. Dozens of species. All watching him. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform. Elias was guided onto it. Across from him stood the largest Cathari yet. Its armor glowed brighter, etched with gold lines. The High Executor, one of his guards, said. The chamber fell silent. The High Executor spoke. Human Captain, your world has fallen, your fleets are destroyed, your governments have transmitted surrender. Elias nodded once. Yeah, sounds like us. But your people continued to fight after surrender was certain, after survival probability dropped below 3%. A hologram appeared in the air. Footage. Human fighters launching from burning airfields. Civilian cargo ships ramming alien destroyers. Soldiers firing from ruined buildings as orbital fire rained down. Elias felt his throat tighten. Explain this behavior, the High Executor said. Elias looked at the images. That's not behavior, he said softly. That's people. Clarify. That's someone's daughter flying that ship. That's someone's brother in that trench. That's not math. Murmurs spread among the alien observers. The Executor's voice remained calm. When defeat is certain, continued resistance only increases casualties. Yeah, Elias said, we know. Then why persist? Elias looked up at the towering figure. Because someone's still alive down there. Silence. The High Executor studied him. You value individual life above species survival. Elias shrugged. We try. This is inefficient. Yeah, Elias said, we get that a lot. A few of the smaller alien delegates shifted. One leaned forward, listening closely. The decision. The High Executor raised one hand. The holograms vanished. Humanity will not be exterminated, it declared. A ripple went through the chamber. You will be preserved as a labor and support species. You will be disarmed, your technology restricted, your military structures dissolved. Elias felt the words like physical blows. A species that does not fear death cannot be allowed power, the Executor continued. We will remove your ability to resist. Guards stepped forward. Elias spoke quickly. Wait. The chamber stilled again. What happens, Elias asked, when your soldiers see us help them? The High Executor tilted its head. Your statement lacks strategic sense. Yeah, Elias said, you'll see. Disaster. Hours later, Elias sat in a transport hold with 200 other human prisoners. No chains, no weapons, just guards at the exits. The ship shuddered. Alarms screamed in a language no human knew, but panic sounds the same in every species. The deck lurched, lights died, emergency red glows flickered on. A Cathari guard stumbled, crashing into the wall as gravity fluctuated. Through a viewport, Elias saw debris, shattered warships, drifting metal, the remains of the battle for Earth. The transport had flown straight through a graveyard. Something slammed into the hull. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. A section of wall ruptured down the corridor. Air roared out. 2 alien crew were pulled into vacuum before a force field snapped into place. Smoke filled the hold. The Cathari guards shouted orders, but systems weren't responding. Elias was already moving. "MEDICS with me," he shouted. No one hesitated. Humans rushed past stunned guards. One group dragged a fallen alien crew member away from a sparking console. Another tore open emergency panels, hands moving fast over unfamiliar systems. A human engineer squinted at glowing symbols, its power routing like a breaker grid. Then reroute it, Elias barked. A young woman pressed cloth against a Cathari soldier's bleeding side. Purple blood soaked her sleeves. The soldier stared at her. "You are prisoner." "Yeah," she said, tightening the bandage. "Hold still." Another impact rocked the ship. Elias grabbed a fallen support beam with two others, lifting it off a trapped reptilian worker. "Why help?" the creature rasped. Elias grunted, "Because you're stuck." Across the bay, a human firefighter sealed a hull crack with emergency foam, while a Cathari technician stared in disbelief. Within minutes, chaos turned into action. Not ordered. Not commanded. Just done. The first crack. On the bridge of the Cathari flagship, the High Executor watched security feeds from the damaged transport. Humans carrying alien wounded. Humans fixing systems not meant for them. Humans forming chains to move debris. No guards forcing them. No weapons on them. They simply acted. A subordinate spoke quietly. "They are preserving Cathari lives." The High Executor did not answer. On the screen, a human gave his own oxygen mask to a smaller alien whose suit had ruptured. The human's lips were turning blue. Still, he helped secure the other's helmet. For the first time in recorded Dominion history, the High Executor did not understand the enemy. And for the first time, it was not certain that fear was the strongest force in the galaxy. The High Executor replayed the footage 3 times. Humans lifting Cathari soldiers. Humans sealing hull breaches. Humans giving up oxygen masks. No hesitation, no orders, no reward. Just action. Around the bridge, Cathari officers stood in silence. Their armor lights flickered softly as they processed what they were seeing. "This behavior," one officer said, "does not match survival logic." "No," the High Executor replied quietly, "it does not." On the screen, a human collapsed after dragging a wounded alien to safety. Another human immediately took his place without being asked. The Executor muted the audio. For the first time in centuries, a thought entered its mind that had never been necessary before. What if fear is not the strongest motivator? Unwanted influence. Word spread fast across the fleet. Not official reports, those were controlled. The workers talked, soldiers talked, servants talked. They saved us. They were prisoners. They helped even after losing. On repair decks, human survivors worked beside alien crews to fix damaged ships. They shared tools, shared water, shared jokes no one else understood but somehow still made others relax. A small 4-armed technician dropped a heavy component. Before any Cathari guard reacted, a human picked it up and helped secure it. "Why assist?" the technician asked. The human shrugged. "Because it's heavy." The idea spread like a quiet signal. Help without command. Care without rank. The Dominion had never run on those things. Orders from above. The High Executor issued a fleet directive. Humans are to be reassigned to isolated labor divisions. Limit unsupervised interaction with Cathari military personnel. The order went out. It was obeyed. But not quickly. Guards hesitated before separating work teams that had just survived disaster together. Some delayed. Some pretended not to understand the urgency. Something small had shifted. Not rebellion. Not yet. But a question had appeared where obedience used to be automatic. A distant problem. 2 weeks later, a report arrived from a mining world on the edge of Dominion space. Species designation, Talaran. Status, resource extraction colony. Compliance record, perfect. Until now. They have ceased work, an officer reported. Reason? The high executor asked. They refuse to continue unless medical supplies are provided for injured workers. Supplies are allocated by productivity tier, another officer said. Injured workers are replaceable. A pause. Who introduced this refusal? The executor asked. The officer hesitated. Human laborers. Silence settled over the bridge. The line in the dust. On the surface of the mining world, the air was thin and filled with red dust. Cathari enforcement troops marched toward the main excavation zone. Plasma rifles hummed softly. Ahead of them stood a crowd of Talaran workers, thin, gray-skinned beings with wide black eyes. And in front of them, humans, unarmed. Elias Ward stood at the front. His clothes were stained with oil and dust. A bandage wrapped his left hand. The Cathari commander stepped forward. Disperse. Work stoppage violates Dominion code. No, Elias said calmly. You are in no position to negotiate. Not negotiating, Elias replied, just standing. Behind him, Talaran workers held injured friends on makeshift stretchers. They collapse from exhaustion, Elias said. No treatment, no rest cycles, that's not order, that's waste. You defy lawful authority, the commander said. Elias nodded, yeah. The Cathari raised its weapon. Humans did not move. Talaran workers trembled but stayed. Why risk termination for another species? The commander demanded. Elias looked back at the injured Talaran, then forward again. Because they would do it for us now. That was new. The commander hesitated. Behind him, several Cathari soldiers shifted uneasily. Some of them had been on the damaged transport. Some remembered human hands pulling them from fire. Weapons lowered just slightly. But enough. The executor arrives. A command shuttle descended in a blast of dust. The high executor stepped onto the surface. All Cathari forces knelt. Elias did not. The executor faced him. You continue to disrupt Dominion order. Trying to improve it, Elias said. Through defiance. Through example. The executor studied the injured workers, the thin bodies, the exhaustion. Fear ensures productivity, it said. For a while, Elias replied, then people stop caring if they live. The executor was silent. Elias took a slow breath. You think we're dangerous because we don't fear death. You're wrong. Explain. We're dangerous because we care who dies. Wind blew red dust across the plain. Behind Elias, humans stood shoulder to shoulder with aliens they had met only weeks ago. No chains. No threats. Just choice. The decision that echoed. The high executor turned to its commanders. Stand down. Shock rippled through the ranks. Medical supplies will be delivered, the executor continued. Work cycles will be adjusted to sustainable biological limits. The Cathari commander stared. This shows weakness. This shows adaptation, the executor replied. Weapons powered down. Across the mining field, tension broke like a storm ending. Talaran workers sagged in relief. Humans smiled. And something invisible shifted in the Dominion forever. A private conversation. Later, aboard the flagship, Elias stood once more before the high executor. You could have crushed that protest, Elias said. Yes, the executor replied. Why didn't you? The tall figure looked out at the stars. For centuries, we believed control required fear. Your species introduces instability. Elias grinned. You're welcome. The executor ignored that. When your kind aids others, loyalty forms without force, productivity rises without punishment, conflict decreases. Turns out people work better when they're not miserable, Elias said. The executor turned slightly toward him. You have altered the trajectory of an empire without weapons. Elias shrugged. We're stubborn. Years later, time moved forward. Human engineers helped redesign safety systems across Dominion worlds. Human medics trained mixed-species emergency crews. Trade routes opened between former enemy species. The word Dominion slowly faded. The word alliance began appearing in official channels. Not because humans conquered, because they refused to stop caring. Return to Earth. Years after the war, a Cathari diplomatic vessel entered Earth orbit. Cities had been rebuilt, scars remained, but life filled the planet again. The High Executor stepped onto human soil for the first time. Elias, older now, met it at a memorial overlooking a restored coastline. Names of the dead covered a black stone wall. You lost, the Executor said quietly. Yeah, Elias agreed. And yet your influence spreads through every system we govern. Elias looked at the ocean. We didn't win by beating you, he said. We won by not becoming you. The Executor considered that. In Cathari history, it said, strength meant dominance. And now, Elias asked. The Executor watched human children playing near the water. Now, it said, strength may mean something else. Final words. As the Cathari ship left Earth, the High Executor recorded a message to the Alliance Council. Let it be known, it said, that the human species altered galactic civilization not through superior weapons, but through irrational compassion. A pause. Recommendation. Never underestimate a species that refuses to abandon others, even in defeat. Closing line. The galaxy had known conquerors. It had known empires built on fear. But it had never known a species like humanity. A species that could lose everything and still choose to care. End.